Welcome to Psyche Surfing, a podcast that drives a new wave of realization and magic each week. My name is Stephanie Blair, and my mission is to shine a light on the journey of self-knowing and awareness. Ride the waves of the mind with me each week as we dive into metaphysical and psychological perspectives on astrology, numerology, card reading, fortune-telling, destiny, psychedelics, and personality theory. The evolutionary waves of human consciousness are rising. Are you ready to enjoy the ride? Hi everyone, this is Stephanie with Psyche Surfing. Welcome to episode 5. Today there is a lot of stuff happening at 5 Productions. We are painting in the other room, and I had a funny situation walking over here. I couldn't even get in the door because my phone died, and I have to call my interviewee. I had to call him on the phone because Ziji is an aura healer and he works via phone with clients. So the aura is essentially a subtle luminous electromagnetic radiation that an object or a being gives off. And we're going to dive into what the aura is, why it's relevant, and how it relates to healing work. One of the main themes that we talk about with Ziji in this interview is past life healing. And this is the way that the energy body stores information. So when Ziji is working with clients, he's literally reading and speaking the language of that aura to know what event or trauma is ready to be healed. If anybody doesn't know the New Life Expo here in New York City, everybody's setting up their own personal booths and sharing what type of healing business they have. And so many people have so many different things. And people who are spirit junkies like me go and you can get readings, or you can work with different healers, you can go to different lectures. And people from all over the world come to share what they do in this really high vibrational place. There's also a lot of chaos. A lot of people who are looking for answers in the wrong way might be looming around, and there are a lot of people who have really, really special messages to share. And if you are lucky, you'll stumble across them. And I wrote my name down on Ziji's list that said free aura healing. I'm thrilled to be able to talk with him today. I had an aura healing with him. I can explain a little bit about what that was. I sent a picture. I think this is about 3 or 4 years ago. I sent him a picture of me, and then he called me on the phone after having perceived my energy through the photograph. We talked about any specific issues that I might want to have healed at that time. To be honest, I forget what they were, but I was so curious about what he was doing. I set the phone down and I relaxed, and I was aware that somebody was in their own way using their clairvoyant abilities, clairvoyant, clairsentient, claircognizant abilities to perceive what my aura had to say, what my aura had to communicate. And in terms of what the aura is, for anybody who isn't familiar with that, one definition that I love of the aura is it's a subtle, luminous, electromagnetic radiation surrounding an object or being. And when we're talking about the aura, we're not necessarily talking about something that your body is doing or exuding that we think of when we think of colors of the aura and everything like that. On a deeper level, it's the energetic body that is projecting into the earth, onto this dimension of reality that we're on right now. That is where all the information actually is. And so that aura is making up or sending us information that we see now as our bodies, as our real bodies as earthlings here on earth. If we want to go deeper to healing that our soul is ready to know or experience, we look at the aura. We look at our subtle body, and Ziji's language, as he's going to explain to us, I hope, is very specific to what that aura is. So I'm so excited to dive into that with him. In my healing, I was so surprised to learn that he saw a past life that I had in Egypt. He didn't give a specific time period. And I share this story as an example of the type of visuals he might perceive that will relate to your current circumstance, or will relate to what your soul, what you're ready to know, what you're ready to change, what you're ready to integrate into your life to change. And I guess I was a priestess in a temple in Egypt when he said that I was a part of a lot of the ancient rituals that would happen in the temples. And in that way, I was cut off from society a little bit because I was serving in the rituals. I was a part of the... I don't personally consciously remember this, but this is information that he shared with me. And he said that I was in the temple working in this way in some of the religious traditions, the occult traditions of the temple. And an earthquake happened. And he said that literally the energy that needed to be healed was energy at my feet. And that the earthquake itself was so surprising that my body literally absorbed the shock and the trauma of this earthquake. And this is why in this life I might have a little bit of learning to do in terms of grounding, in terms of feeling like I have 2 feet solid on the ground, in terms of trusting. And so that, of course, that totally blew my mind. And even as I remember this reading, as I remember this healing that he did for me, it's so bizarre to consciously really reflect on. So I guess he said that what happened was it was such a mass exodus, it was such a confusion, it was such a chaotic scene of everybody scrambling and walking and leaving that my body had absorbed a lot of the confusion that I felt being sort of separated from the people, in the sense that I had been somebody who was working inside the temple, and all of a sudden I was in a situation where not only was the floor shaking underneath me, but I was having a harder time relating to some of the people that were around me. And so basically he did a healing in my aura for this past life circumstance. That is part of how I know Ziji, and that is part of my personal story with him. And I share that with you because you may have situations. I certainly encourage everybody to call him and book a session with him. The first one is free. Ziji Kaufman at aurahealingbyphone.com. This is his website. We're going to get into a little bit about how he perceives this information, how he got there. So I'm here with Jim, and we're setting up, and we are getting ready to call this incredible healer.
Hello.
Oh, hi, Ziji. It's Stephanie. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you really clearly now. Thank you so much for being with us.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
So, Ziji, can you tell us, and for my listeners, a little bit, and I know that it's a vast question, can you tell us about your healing work and what you do?
I'll try. Yes, it is a vast question. Basically, my knowledge, my healing approach does not really come from any teachers or books, although I did study with quite a few healers and shamans, gurus, etc., spiritual teachers back in the 80s, the mid to late 80s. And after that, I spent a year studying at the Barbara Brennan Healing School when she was in Long Island, almost a year. And then I started getting my own inner guidance, that I had my own healing approach from a past lifetime, and it was a news to me at the time.
Oh, yeah.
I had some of her assistants in the room when we were practicing different healing techniques. They would come up to me while they were teaching the technique up on stage, and they'd come up to me and whisper in my ear. They'd say, "You don't do the technique this way. You do it this way." And I'm like, "What?" You know, they were like telling me the way I did my healing practice in some past lifetime. They were channeling it. So that was very interesting because, you know, my background was in physics. I was a physics teacher, and I really didn't start out to be a healer.
Uh-huh.
But I was writing a book at the time. I was trying to write a book that included a lot of Barbara Brennan's concepts from her book, Hands of Light, which was a fabulous book.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I decided to leave teaching and go to study with her.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, I've been on a pretty much like a 30-year journey of inner transformation and self-healing, basically peeling off layers and layers of physical and emotional traumas for the last almost 30 years. And as I peel them away, I map out the universal language of how the human aura works. Mm-hmm. So in 30 years, I've mapped out quite a bit. I'm saying usually now I feel like I've mapped out close to 80% of how the universal language of how the human aura works. But mm-hmm. that might not be a correct percentage. It's probably could be much less, because who knows what the vastness is of the human aura and the amazing dimensions. But that's what I usually say. I've mapped out about 80% at this point. So when I tune into somebody's aura or energy body over the phone, their what I call their body's intelligence basically can see that I understand its language, and it almost immediately starts talking to me in symbols, visions, words, all kinds of ways that people's body intelligences start communicating with me, and they guide me basically to whatever needs to happen with the person. It's really wide open. I say there's really no issue that I can't make some positive contribution to, physical, emotional kind of issues. So I guess that'd be a little bit of a nutshell explanation.
Well, thank you so much for a nutshell explanation of something that's so incredibly vast.
I tried.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that one of the things when we talk about the aura, and we talk about spiritual healing, when we talk about unraveling our own inner capabilities for healing and understanding, we're talking about something that in some aspect is unexplainable, like the essence of spirit, or maybe the essence of soul that is able to relate to each other. Like, I'm really interested in you said the body's intelligence that they're bringing in their aura, the information that's stored in their aura that you're able to perceive. I'm interested in how that's the same language in some way, in the sense that we're all connected.
You're interested in how, in this universal language? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, sure. I'm just reflecting on it. I just think it's absolutely incredible because we're talking about a language that is spiritual in nature. Can you talk a little bit about that language, like maybe the understanding that you're able to get when you are perceiving information in somebody's aura?
I'll try. So, yeah, I mean, I believe that this human vessel, physical and energetic and spiritual, I believe that God, he, she, or it, God has created, and we're living in it, living in this creation, this vessel that houses our spirits. I guess you can call it, an organic, machine at some level. It really has been designed to embody our spirits, and so just from that vantage point alone, it was created at a universal level. And the interesting thing about it is that it could handle I call it the full encyclopedia of light bodies. This is, to me, this is the knowledge of what I've gleaned in my almost 30 years of doing this work is, everybody is at a different constellation of light body that's being housed in this vessel that can house all possibilities of light bodies. Mm-hmm. So when I'm dealing with a client, I'm basically interacting with a light body that is in their particular, probably 100% unique constellation of light that's being housed in this vessel. And depending on the traumas that particular light being that I'm interacting with in my healing session, depending on the traumas that light being has gone through in however many lifetimes or existences, either on this planet or perhaps other planets or other dimensions, that's all being stored. That all of those traumas and positive experiences as well, and everything in between, is stored like a recording in the aura, in the energy body. So yeah. Anything you want to question on that one?
No, I understand, and I'm so excited for my listeners to be able to get such an amazing explanation from you, Ziji. I think that it's just Really, really well said and really interesting. Can you talk a little bit about past lives and what that is, what that might mean? Maybe even if you've had a client that has come to you for an aura healing and maybe their friend recommended they have a session and they're kind of unsure what it is. What would you say to them if you are doing an energy healing for them or an aura healing and you said, hey, this past life is coming up? How might you describe that to somebody who has never heard of that concept before?
Well, I'll usually preface it by, first and foremost saying, do you believe in reincarnation? And I'll wait to hear their response. Most of my clients, well, it's not true. Actually, I get clients from, the full range of people who reincarnation is second nature belief. They've always had it, to people who have never even really considered it. So yeah, I'll ask them, do you believe in reincarnation? Mm-hmm. And basically, the way I look at it, the person's body intelligence is showing me visions, but it's only if it's useful and relevant for the healing of the person. We're not interested in, that you were Louis the whatever or Queen Elizabeth, we're not interested in that. But if that comes through, if I get a vision that somebody was a recognizable figure in history, then that's cool. But I'll ask, I'll talk to their body intelligence and also my own spirit guides. I'll say, is that useful information for this person? Does this person really need to understand that they were somebody famous? Most of the time, the past life visions that I get are, fabric of life kind of visions that embody a quality in their current life that is up for healing. There's some kind of, sometimes you have physical and emotional conditions that people have that when after you really sort of question their backgrounds and they're scratching their head. They can't say, well, I don't know how that happened. I never, broke my arm in that particular area, and I don't know where this particular emotional neurotic response comes from because I had an idyllic childhood. So, so at that point, the body intelligence may start giving me past life visions that explain. Can you give some kind of sense of where that particular physical or emotional condition might have come from? And so it's really up to the client, if they're ready to integrate, to receive the lesson, the visions. Everybody's at a different level of self-exploration. Some people, you give them that information and they're, they know exactly what to do with it, and they're already off and examining the different aspects of their lives to integrate the knowledge, and that's fabulous, because usually when the body intelligence gives these kind of past lifetime information, and the person learns the lesson or receives the teaching of the vision from the past life, that usually will help them to resolve the blocks, the energy blocks that are holding the physical and emotional trauma in place. And that's when a condition can really be permanently healed, mm-hmm. after the person has learned the teachings, the lessons of the visions. That it's like the body intelligence is holding all of our secrets. They know our body intelligence knows everything about us, everything that's ever happened to us, mm-hmm. and it's just waiting for the timing to give us this information when we're ready for it, mm-hmm. to process and transform and heal.
Wow. I think what I'm getting from you as well is that a lot of times when clients hear a certain story or a memory, when they make conscious a memory that happened to them from the past, I wonder, and what is your experience, how important is it for them to intellectually understand that? And how more important is it interesting for the body to hear that, or the body to recognize that story? And if there's like a subconscious knowing that brings healing even more than like an intellectual knowing. There's a realization in the body, if there's a memory in the body that is seen and heard, maybe that's the most important thing that's happened, even if the client or even if a person can't rationally understand it?
Well, when you share something with a client, that's, information that's coming from their, I'm calling it their body's intelligence. You can call it their subconscious, or their autonomic nervous system, or deep within them. They're going to receive it on all levels. They're going to hear it as well as they can hear it. Their soul is going to feel it as well as they can feel it, and it's a full body. Reception of what you're sharing with them. Some people, as I said before, will know what to do with that almost intuitively, and they'll be running with it, hitting the ground running with that information to keep transforming. And other people, will put up blocks and they'll hear a portion of it, and if they keep doing the healing work, they just have to keep repeating it, keep sharing it until they get the lesson.
Yeah, at the right time in the right way. That's best for them, I guess. I wonder, as you've worked with so many people, if you see an overall, or if you're able to grasp at some sort of a overall image of our evolution overall, or our cosmic healing overall, and if you start to see patterns of people opening up at the same time, or if you see patterns of people healing different issues at the same time. I know the volcano is going off right now in Hawaii, and so we're all connected to these deeper energy. We're connected to the earth, we're connected to each other. Do you notice any patterns like that when you're working with people?
There's definitely an overall evolution that's occurring. I do believe, ultimately, we all started out, originally, when we were first created, we all started out with the full spectrum of light in our auras, with all of our chakras beautiful and open, and our light bodies gorgeous, and our hearts open, and our connection to people, receptive and sharing and non-defensive. That's where we all come from, and that's where we all hopefully will eventually get back to. So, that's the goal. The question really is, when for each soul, will that, resurrection or reflowering of their original light bodies occur? I think everybody's sort of at a different place in that cycle. Do you see a difference in the ages of people's souls? So maybe there are some people that have been down, or, have you worked with newer souls or newer light bodies compared to older light bodies? Sure. Yeah, there's a full range. In terms of ages, I have my spirit guides have, when they were sort of creating my business structure, put in sort of like an age limit of 25. So we just basically anybody's under 25. You can look on my website, which is aurahealingbyphone.com. Anyone who's under 25 just has certain somebody has to sort of be with them, coach or a parent, etc., etc. But anyway, no, you can have very young people in terms of age who are incredibly wise and evolved souls, and you obviously can have very old people who are quite immature, quite young in their souls. There's definitely a collection of souls on this planet right now that have come in already quite evolved. and I have quite a few of those souls as clients, and that's beautiful, very, very beautiful. These are probably souls that really didn't need to learn too many lessons. I believe you really can't come onto this planet if you don't have some lessons to learn. But it's just a question of how many lessons you need to learn and how you need to learn them. How severe the lesson will be presented to you. Hopefully, and we all hope that our lessons will be presented to us in very gentle and loving and non-judgmental ways. And for many souls on this planet, I believe they're having that kind of journey, learning their lessons, but they don't have to be, as I sometimes put it, they don't have to be whacked over the head to get the lesson. They get it. They know how to receive guidance and signs from the universe, and they know when they're getting spoken to by the higher intelligence. And a lot of these evolved souls know exactly how to receive that information and grow. And some people are on very, very fast tracks with learning, with their learning, and hopefully, I guess a lot of them are hoping that they can get off, as they say, the wheel of karma, or the reincarnational cycle, if they choose. Is this making any sense?
It's making sense to me. Psyche surfing is a lot of helping people bridge the gap between confusion about New Age healing and, so I think that you're using a lot of language, Ziji, that might be really, really familiar to people in the healing world. And I think it might be really exciting for people to hear who don't talk about this every day, or whose jobs, their life and their concepts and their personal mythologies don't necessarily involve what you're saying. To bring it more into the concrete for somebody who might want to get a session with you, can you tell us a little bit about what it looks like? I can share my experience. I met you at the New Life Expo, I think 3 or 4 years ago. And I just signed up on your lovely guest list, and it said, sign up here for a free aura healing. And it really struck me that you were offering services for free, and that was one of the ways that you're reaching out to people, and as a light worker and as a healer, sharing what you do, because not everybody does that. So that definitely got my attention, and sure enough, we did a wonderful session together. And then it was like a year later, I was going through something so difficult. I was going through a hard time in my life, and you called and you said, hey, would you like I forget what you said or how or why you had my information, but it was just like an angel showed up out of the blue to do a healing for me. And it really struck me as such divine timing for me personally to have you reach out the second time.
I think I had emailed you. I think you had wanted a healing for your mother, and I think I had emailed her, and then you sort of responded, and I forgot all the circumstances, but yeah.
That's triggering me a memory. That's right. Well, thank you. So for everybody who's listening, I really admire the fact that was such a so generous in spirit to reach out to me. But for what a session looks like, you call somebody on the phone, and we send a picture first, right?
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me say that my first session over the phone or over webcam is free. And then after that, it's $60, and you can get a half-price follow-up session to that $60 session if you do it, relatively quickly after the $60 session. So you can basically get 2 sessions for $90, which is basically $45 a session. And so the first session is always free. I ask people to send 2 photos, recent, up-to-date photos of them alone, without friends or pets in them, so I can see what their current up-to-date energy, I'll call it energy constellation or signature. Sometimes I call it their current cosmic phone number. You dial in. It's that's their crystallized energy field at that particular point in time, and the energy field changes. So if I'm doing, more sessions with people, I ask them to send up-to-date photos before each session because everybody's energy body changes. Some people change more. Some people can really change in a day, and other people have auras that or energy bodies that are pretty steady. So once I get a sense after a number of sessions of how a person's energy body might shift, and I get a lot of information from the photos. And when I get put the photos up on my computer when I'm speaking to somebody on the phone or the webcam, and their body intelligence is talking to me, is pointing me, saying, "Hey, look here, Ziji, look at this particular area," and ask my client, has anything happened in this area, or I'm seeing some kind of emotional dimension in their aura, and their body intelligence is talking to me telepathically and saying, "Ask my client," and I say,
ask me,
ask
yeah.
them, yeah, ask them about, did anything in the last week happen that related to something like this, because I'm seeing this vision of this person, and they're saying this, whatever it is, and then hopefully usually the person will say, "Wow," it jogs their memory, and they'll say, "Yeah, that did happen to me this week," and that unfolds a whole story. So the healing session is between an hour to an hour and a half. And again, my spirit guide set up the structure of my business a long time ago. So we leave up to a half hour in the beginning of this kind of working with the photos and just talking to the person, seeing what's up for them, whatever they feel like sharing. If they don't feel like sharing anything, then no problem. I don't, go prying at all. If they don't want to share anything, we just jump right into the healing, which is done in silence. Usually takes about a half hour to 40 minutes. And then at the end of the healing, I call them back, say, "Okay, that's the end of the healing," and then I share with them what I think happened during the healing. Hopefully I can give them some predictions about what they will hopefully notice in the coming days or weeks sometimes after the healing. And then I also, in the first healing, the free healing, I also follow up with people in 48 hours. I give them a call, and I just want to know how they're doing since the healing, and if they have any questions for me. So that's the introductory experience. And my spirit guides offer it for free because, we want people to have an experience. I wouldn't want to take anybody's money for future sessions until people really have a sense that something fundamental has shifted in a positive way from the initial healing.
It has such pure intention behind it, and it's radical. I think it's radical to offer free healings, and I think it's a beautiful way to go about what you're doing, especially in the world, and especially with the need for healing and the need for understanding about what this looks like.
Yeah, it's a beautiful experience. It makes me feel good. I consider it art, really. This is beautiful. It's sacred and majestic. Even when we're dealing with very serious health conditions or serious emotional issues, it's just incredibly sacred connection between that person's body intelligence, working in whatever pace the client is ready to work at, and trying to move that person forward in their evolution.
One thing you keep saying that I want to make clear for everybody, when you say the body's intelligence, you mean the physical body and or the light body, right?
I mean, once again, I have to say that I had a huge, if you ever read my story on my website, I had a huge Renaissance spirit education back in the 80s. I was like an audiovisual person at a major New Age center. And first I was volunteering, and then I was given offered this position by somebody who was doing a lot of different events, and I ended up being the audiovisual taper at this major center, and I learned from hundreds and hundreds of teachers and healers, etc. But once I left the Barbara Brennan School in 1990, my spirit guides told me to stop reading, stop going to lectures, and from that point on, I've basically, had to evolve my own languaging about what I do. So if some of my languaging is a little hard to understand, I empathize with you and your audience. But basically, at this particular point in my evolution as a healer and my current understanding, which is always increasing because I'm still healing myself, all the time, still working on myself and learning more about the human aura and the human energy body. But basically, I acknowledge three bodies. I acknowledge the physical body, and then I acknowledge what I call the underlying auric architecture body, or the underlying energy body. And that actually, and then the third body is us. The third body is who we really are as a spirit in this life, in body and out of body. I mean, spirit is eternal. It goes from lifetime to lifetime. But while we're in this particular lifetime on Earth or whatever planet, our people evolve to or move to, if ever, and we come into this vessel, and this vessel, again, I believe it was created. It's basically an energy matrix at heart, and this is my concept of the aura, my current concept of the aura. That a lot of people think the aura is these colors that expand out from the body. You get these aura photographs that people like to look at.
Yeah, that's the main association. The
real revelation from my vantage point is that the aura starts inside the body, and it's basically it's the underlying energy matrix that, to me, is almost an exact model of the physical body. So you find when you go inside the body, you got an energy heart, you got an energy liver, you got an energy nervous system. Everything's exactly the way it is in the physical body, but there's an energy model of it underneath. And so what I do is I'm going in and healing the underlying energy body, and then what happens is the cells of the physical body, so many millions are born and die every day. So when you heal the underlying energy body, eventually new cells will grow on top of that healed energy body, and then the physical body will heal itself. So that's the way I'm working, and also our spirit, for us to be fully alive on Earth in this vessel, our spirit bodies need to be fully integrated with the other two bodies. In other words, the spirit body needs to come into the underlying energy body, underlying auric architecture body, and merge with and embrace this all the internal organs and systems underlying the physical body. And that's where our spirit bodies comes in and can potentially bring this incredible, miraculous, created vessel to life. And all of the psychic, everything evolves from that. I mean, it's just, we can get full health. Full health, it means health at every single level, and that's when the spirit body comes into these other two bodies and fully integrates with it and brings it to its full glory, full original intention to house all the energies, all the beautiful energies in the universe.
Wow. Well, that makes sense to me. Does it make sense to you, Jim? My sound guy's listening too.
Hi, Jim.
He says hi. It makes so much sense to me, and I wish I could pick up the questions that would be in my listeners' minds, but I do think it makes sense. And I think it's mirroring my own understanding of the aura. I think a lot of people think of the aura as like colors that are coming off of your body, and it seems like this elusive. I think that's the thing, it's changing. You know, a lot of people talk about it, and I'm excited that this conversation might demystify what it is.
The way I look at it, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
The way I look at it, you can almost use the metaphor of a light bulb, you know, where you got the light filaments in the middle of the glass bulb, and that's where the light begins, and then the light radiates out past the actual physical light bulb. So, you know, similarly, we are the light bulb. You know, we're the source. We are the light body. And we come into this vessel, and depending on how much light we have, how integrated our spirit body is as it integrates with this underlying energy body and the physical body, to that degree, our energy will radiate out like a light bulb into very far reaches, and colors. The colors of the aura come with that, you know, and the healthier your spirit body is as it integrates with the underlying energy body and the physical body, to that degree, we will be colorful. We will radiate the colors, the full colors of the energetic spectrum, and that translates to beauty. You know, everybody can recognize that. They may not understand the way I'm explaining it, but that's the aura. You know, and some people just have great energy. They have beautiful complexions. You know, I could look at somebody's complexion and see all the colors that are making it up, and that's real. I mean, we have an intuitive sense of what a healthy energy body looks like, and even people who can't see auras, people look at somebody and say, "Wow, you look great. You look healthy. You're vibrant," and it doesn't have anything to do with their age, doesn't have anything to do with their physical features. If somebody's radiating beautiful light, you know, everybody can feel it.
Wow. Yeah, one of the ways I think about it as well, people think like the body itself, this physical vessel, is doing the aura or making the aura, whereas it's kind of the other way around, right? Like it's like like you said, the spiritual body, the energy body, it's almost as though that information is projecting into this dimension, the physical form. So it's like it starts with the aura. So you could say, in a sense, the aura is shining this body.
Correct. And yes, of course. Yeah, that is what I'm saying. Of course, you can have, like a physical accident and, break a bone or whatever. I mean, that is the physical world imposing its harsh will on the physical body, and it will impact the energy body and your spirit body as well, which is inside. So it can go the other way as well, you know. But yeah,
right.
I mean,
yeah, and thank you so much. I hope I didn't put you on the spot to explain the nature of reality. I just mean to go dive deep into what it is exactly that you do. But what you're doing is involving these metaphysical concepts.
Yeah.
Right, and just to reiterate, so if a trauma, you get hit by a car, something happens to your physical body, whether it's in this lifetime or another lifetime, that's information that could be stored in your aura. And so what you're doing is helping people go back and see what's in there. And in a sense, how can we heal these blocks and release these blocks so they don't have to affect you in this current reality in this current lifetime?
Right. I mean, you know, we and the body intelligence knows the way back, and that's another very important dimension of what I do. Even if I know all kinds of things exactly about where a certain illness is in somebody's physical body, and I've read the reports, and even no matter how much I know about a client, when I tune in for the healing, I empty my mind, or I try my best to empty my mind completely. and let the person's body intelligence take over, because I just, I just have the basic stance that I would not know how to heal that particular, there is no universal way to heal any one particular medically described condition. Everybody is 100% unique in their energy bodies and how they got there. And so if somebody's diagnosed with a certain kind of condition that the medical profession has put, a definition or a label or, a level on it, I still will just want to go in there myself and see what I see. And because I see everything in energy forms. I mean, you go in there and the cells, somebody's got a cancer or a tumor or whatever. I mean, I'm going in there and hopefully the body intelligence will guide me to that particular area, and hopefully that particular organ or organ system will start talking to me and share with me exactly or the cutting edge of what's keeping it stuck, and what the original root cause of it of that condition is.
Yeah, so when you go in there, like you just said, this is a personal process that happens for you that has to do with the way that you are in communication with your spirit guides and with the way that you're using clairsentience, clairvoyance, claircognizance to understand information that a person's soul or a person's aura is giving you. And that's what you mean by going in there.
Yeah, tuning in telepathically and communicating with their body's intelligence or their spirit body. Yeah, no, you said it well.
Okay, so once you're there, how does the healing happen? Do you send them light? Do you send them love and light? Do your spirit guides take over from there? And what is that moment of healing? What does that look like?
No, I don't send any energy. Basically, the way I didn't start out to be a healer. I basically stumbled on this physical and emotional trauma onion peeling process where I'm peeling my own layers, and so when I tune into a person's aura and I'm guided to go to the cutting edge of where they need healing, a lot of times I could be working on a number of levels. First, I take in. I've basically learned how to take in whatever energies or entities, spirit entities. I know that's probably a concept that some people won't really understand. I could explain that if you'd like. But basically, when I first started healing, I opened myself up to that person basically passing over to my own aura, my own energy body, all the energies and the entities that they're ready to release, and I take it into my own aura and then transform it. And this is one of the basic abilities that basically allows me to do this work, because, as I said, I didn't start out to be a healer. I learned how to get rid of the negative energy.
So
I'm still learning, but I've done a lot. Exactly. Transmuting the negative energies and entities from my own aura over this 30-year period, almost 30 years. And so when I tune into a person's energy body, that's the first thing usually. I'll just start almost like a vacuum cleaner. I'll just start, whatever the body's ready to release. I don't go looking. Even if I see a certain pool of negative energy or entities, I will not go and take it out. I wait for their body intelligence to give me what it's ready to release, and then I clear myself and I get rid of that. And then after that, because a lot of times I do more than one sort of mini healing, and some of these are really, really long healings. As I said, the actual healing portion it's like a half hour to 40 minutes, sometimes longer, depending on what needs to happen. But once I clear the person of the energies or entities that their body intelligence wants to give to me, to release, to clear, then I go in and I can do all kinds of different stuff, whatever really needs to occur, like psychic surgery stuff, sewing, like energy stitches, transforming the consciousness of the cells of, where there's each cell is, to me, like a mini person. Every single cell has a voice, and I try, again, I'm being guided, but if necessary, I can go to pretty much any level of magnification. If I need to go down to the microscopic level to transform, the consciousness of some kind of condition that really the root of it is at the nervous system level, or the brain, the level of the synapses in the brain, or the capillaries, or inside the bronchioles of the lung, wherever it is, I can go there and get to the root. And but then ultimately, you want to come back to the macro level and get a vision of the full body. And then this is when somebody has done either they're already sort of there, or they've done a lot of healing, and finally the body intelligence says, okay, we don't need to go to the micro level anymore. Now we're going to integrate everything. We're going to see the body as a whole organism and tune it up, and get everything working together. So that's a very exciting moment for me as a healer, when the person's body intelligence takes me away from one particular area where there's pain or emotional block in an area, and then we start working with the whole body, and now we're working with the whole magnificence of the original, template of the human body, the human aura. So the chakras come in, and it's a very exciting moment when the whole body comes in. Hope that was somewhat understandable.
Yeah, no, that's so neat. It's amazing. And what's coming to me the most is that you went on this path as a healer, that you said you were ready to stop listening to other books, stop learning, and really start listening to yourself and your own unique way that this happens. So what does your life look like now? I mean, I'm sure that you aren't isolated, but I can also imagine that you're in a very sacred, protected bubble that this work requires in some way.
Well, if you go and read my story on the website, you'll see that the universe took me, after I left the Barbara Brennan School in 1990-91, it took me on an amazing 3-year hitchhiking journey in the Southwest, where they guided me. I took a bus to, actually, I see you from Colorado. There was like a rainbow gathering going on in Colorado that year. And I was guided. I stopped first in Durango, Colorado. What part of Colorado?
I'm from Denver. But Durango is beautiful.
Yeah, it was great. So I got there, and my spirit guide said, "Okay, put all your money in this this safe deposit box in this bank, and then just go out, and we'll guide you." And we did this 3-year amazing hitchhiking journey that landed me in all kinds of areas, New Mexico and Austin, Texas, and California, San Francisco, and a whole bunch of different. I was part of like a psychic touring entourage, and we went to all the states around there. So yeah, the universe, when it really kind of was set out to sort of blow my mind and show me, what was possible, and just to have complete faith in the universe. And there's some pretty intense little stories there, for anybody who might be interested. Just trusting the universe. Some pretty interesting and quite challenging circumstances that I was tested to make sure that I had the proper faith and that I was worthy of eventually, being shown or being allowed to unfold these abilities, and that the universe would send me people to help, and so yeah, it's been a journey. I came back to the New York area after those 3 years, and
what made you land in New York after visiting all these beautiful places? Right.
Well, it was. Well, I grew up here, and there was family dimensions. I ended up working in my family fashion business.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I started out in very sort of low level, and eventually I became like a production manager where I was running like a crew of maybe 40
Mm-hmm.
people. And the universe has taken me on a very interesting journey following this, the magical rainbow 3 years of in the Southwest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's brought me back to ordinary, what most people in this planet, the ordinary fabric of life that most people on this planet are experiencing. And I had to slow down my consciousness quite a bit. I had to learn to deal with monotony and the slowness of change. And that was also a test. That was a test for me to have the intention that I want to help everybody, no matter how, wherever they're at, whatever speed they're moving at, whatever level of knowledge or lack of knowledge of who they are at the unconscious level. It had to be at the intention level that, everybody's important, everybody's equal, and no matter, and the universe has sent me, as I said before, some of the highest evolved souls on this planet, as well as, beings that really have no clue about what motivates them. And it's constantly, it still is, I'm basically, open for whoever walks through the door and take them from wherever they're at. So yeah, the universe brought me back to New York, and in fact, next year, me and my partner Rebecca were probably going to move back to the Southwest because that's where she's from. But it's been many years since I've been in New York, and at this level of learning, it's just basically been about respect. And as I said before, I try to walk what I call the Bodhisattva path. Are you familiar with that?
Sure. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not enough to be spiritual and happy-go-lucky and searching for the ecstatic experiences, because there's a lot of people, in relatively dark spaces right now on this planet. So the Bodhisattva path for me is just the intention, really, as Jesus walked with the lepers, at the intention level, to be willing to really walk, with the metaphoric lepers, whoever they are, So that's what New York has sort of been like to me. It's just, it's been a sacred journey, a sacred experience and teaching about the way most people live on this planet, and it's been humbling. So it's been very humbling, and so that's, everybody on this planet, we're all family. This is our family. That's the way I look at it. And everybody's important, no matter where they're at. So that's the way I look at it. I don't know if that I got off track on that one.
And what you're saying is so beautiful as well, because this podcast is all about New Age philosophy and getting to the heart of it, getting to the heart of what is psychic perception, what is healing, what is our psyche, what is astrology. And, right now, as everybody's consciousness is growing and everything is, everybody's doing yoga, and there are a lot of positive movements happening to keep it in perspective. And what I'm getting from you is service. And the Bodhisattva's desire to be of service and to help. And at the core of, our passion and our love for spirituality, we have more people, freaking out about how they're going to decalcify their pineal gland and what vitamins they're going to take. And it's not really about that. And just bringing it back to home.
Can you rephrase that what you were just saying in a different way?
In terms of like the sensationalism of New Age concepts, I want to help guide people back to the core. And I think that's what you're saying is service. And we're all here together, and this is our family. And we're here to help each other. And I want to remind people that that's at least what I love about spirituality. And that's what I love about all these healing methods. That's why I wanted to talk to you.
And you're doing it as well with all of the work that you're doing, the cards, and your own healing practice as well.
Thank you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And this is a very exciting broadcast, by the way. I wanted to congratulate you.
Oh, thank you
for doing this Psyche surfing series.
Thank you so much.
Very, very cool.
I have to say, it feels incredibly miraculous. Like even today, we have a crew of friends. Are they painting in the room next door? My fiance and his team here at 5 Ohm Productions. A lot of people are making this happen, and even today there are just little things, getting the equipment started, and has a funny situation just getting in the building, and it doesn't even feel like it just feels like it's happening, and it feels really wonderful, and I'm excited.
That's very beautiful when, you really can feel the universe aligning to support you. It's awesome.
Well, thank you for, like you said, you're open, and thank you so much for being open to receive this call and to let us. I hope you didn't feel like we were the interview. I hope you didn't feel like we were asking you too many questions or like you were explaining anything. I'm just thrilled you were able to share it.
Yeah. Well, I hope it wasn't. It was everything I said was hopefully understandable. If people have questions about anything that I've shared, you can email me from my website. Again, it's aurahealingbyphone.com, and my email is Ziji Kaufman at aurahealingbyphone.com. Feel free to email me any questions you have about any of these concepts.
Great. Yeah, everybody.
So, any other dimensions that we want to try to tackle?
I think we're good. I think that was really encompassing, and I really encourage everybody to reach out to Ziji. And thank you so much, Ziji, for calling in by phone. I think it's appropriate for the way you work.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you listeners as well.
Thank you.
And it's a Jim, right?
Yeah. Have a great night, Ziji. Talk to you soon.
You too now. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.